Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Cabral.
Hey everybody, welcome back. We're here today with the weekend edition of the show. These are the Cabral HouseCalls, answering our community's questions each and every weekend. Just to give you a little update, it looks like we are tackling May 11th, 12th, 13th questions that have come in. I know that we are into July. The show goes live on July 15th. So that looks like we are just about, actually that's not bad. So we've caught up a little bit in time-wise. That means we're about 8 weeks to 9 weeks behind on your questions. Oftentimes it can be up to 12 weeks. We've had that before, and it just depends on how often people write in with their Ask Cabral questions. So always happy to answer them, just letting you know where we are in the update pool. And then, of course, do feel free to ask if you want at cabralsupportgroup.com. You'll get my amazing team's answers to your questions right there on a daily basis. That's cabralsupportgroup.com. All right, let's get into the questions for today. We're going to try to answer 6. That's always the goal. And then, of course, another 6 tomorrow. Once again, just want to thank you before the end of the show for all of your subscribes, your downloads, and of course, your shares. Appreciate it. It means the world to me. All right, let's get in. First one's from Erica. Erica says, thoughts on NuSalt and the Bryan Johnson Blueprint diet. Was thinking of following the Bryan Johnson Blueprint diet and noticed he hardly uses salt, but NuSalt instead. What are your thoughts on his diet and as a whole and NuSalt? Okay, yeah, happy to answer this. I think Bryan's a great guy. I really do. I don't know him personally at all. I think his curiosity and trying to move things forward are fantastic. He eats 3 meals per day. Basically, it's vegan. He eats beans, lentils, vegetables, kind of pureed all together. He has a smoothie bowl, which is like pomegranates, certain berries, and plant-based protein powder. And then he has some type of a whole meal, which is vegan-based as well. I think it's typically like sweet potatoes or, cabbage and different things like that. So overall, and I saw his latest thing where he was having one of his markers off on his blood work. So those people who don't know, Bryan Johnson is basically using himself as a guinea pig to try to live as long as possible and as healthy as possible. And I commend him for that, without a doubt. I would be happy to work with Bryan, on this. I really would, honestly. And that would be complimentary on my end. And the reason is that he has the ability to affect change and help a lot of people. He also invests in this industry. So I look at it as an investment. And I think that there's a couple things that he could do to improve. And I teach those inside of High Performance Health. So one is I think he's starting to get too lean right now. And those of you who've heard my podcast on the disposable soma theory on aging, I just did one on Thursday on the basically rate of living, right? The speeding up of the metabolism. I know he's trying to lower that in a way, but what happens is he may lose a lot of his reserves on a daily basis. So his calories are quite low. They're at around, I think, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's around 1,700 or so. He probably burns 2,200 a day. And that could be okay, but he's getting leaner and leaner. And now one of his blood markers was off. And he felt, and again, he has a team of doctors around him, that it may be related to his protein intake. So he was lowering his protein. His protein's already pretty low, especially for someone that works out an hour a day. So what I would say is this. It very well could be that he's breaking down too much muscle mass. So if anybody knows Bryan, I think he's doing a great job. I appreciate him. I actually think that he's not eating enough protein and his calories are too low, which could be why some of those blood markers were off. I'm not going to go into it. I don't want to make it seem like I'm saying anything negative because I'm not. But I think his doctors need to look at not going lower in protein. And you know that I'm not someone that says you need to go high in protein or should, because that causes its own issues. I actually think he might be going too low. I think there might be too much muscle breakdown, and that's not ideal. Okay, so that's, I've been waiting to actually talk a little bit about this, so thank you, Erica, for bringing it up. Now we can say, hey, I've talked about the Bryan Johnson Blueprint. Okay, so now what about NuSalt? Well, NuSalt is, instead of sodium chloride, which is what salt is, this is potassium chloride. So get rid of the sodium, attach it to chloride, a port of salt, right? Because salt is Na, sodium chloride, Ca. So, or Cl, I should say. Apologies. Ca is calcium. So what else? NuSalt does have, though, what else does it have? It has silicon dioxide in it, which I don't love. And it also has natural flavors, which I'm totally fine with if it's non-GMO, but it doesn't say non-GMO. So I don't know about that. And what else is in NuSalt? I'm just trying to go off the top of my head here. It's like cream of tartar, which is fine because that's where you get the potassium from, right? I mean, that's the potassium thing. I've never seen an issue with that, but it's high potassium as well. So the thing is, most people do need more potassium in their diet. I just think that they should get it through green vegetables and lots of other ways. So I know that he's using it to add more flavor to his diet. I get it. I just want to make sure things are balanced. That's all. So I don't know. I'm not against sea salt like a lot of people are. If you have blood pressure issues, honestly, there's so many other reasons besides salt. Some people are sensitive to salt. I don't think you should oversalt things without a doubt, but I'm okay with a little bit of Celtic sea salt, Himalayan sea salt, rock salt, etc. And I would just get more potassium from my diet to balance it, and then a lot of hydration. Okay, that was a long answer. I appreciate you writing in. That is my synopsis as of right now. And of course, I'm sure his theories and things will change over time, and I can give an update in the future as well. All right. And again, for what I'm doing, for what I'm teaching on living past 100, is all at highperformancehealth.org. Okay, and every Thursday I try to go over some of that on the podcast. Anonymous is up next. Hello, Dr. Cabral. My husband, who's 23, has been experiencing erectile dysfunction symptoms. He had his testosterone tested. It was 385. Although it wasn't below range, as doctor mentioned, it seems on the lower end. He got Viagra, generic, however, there really was not a noticeable difference. We had a follow-up with his MD, said he wouldn't be able to do anything unless his testosterone levels were not within range. He seek therapy recommended by his MD for psychological reasons, but it's been 7 months. There's no improvement. I'm concerned there's something a lot more serious. Arterial insufficiency due to slightly high LDL. Anything else the lab work might not be able to figure out. Okay. All right. Happy to help with this. So there could be what's called a vascular issue. And so you do want to look for that, right? So like if it's the PCP may recommend seeing a vascular-based specialist, especially if there's any like pins and needles in the hands or feet, poor blood flow, purplish fingers, cold hands and feet. That's important to look at that. Next, we want to look at, are there really high levels of cortisol? Right? Because if you're in fight or flight, it's not going to allow you to get a parasympathetic nervous system, which would allow for strong erections. So we want to make sure that the body isn't overly stressed, right? That's important. We also want to look for, we don't want lower levels of thyroid. So like the number one test you could run is the stress mood and metabolism test. Yes, you'll be getting testosterone again, but you're going to see if it's converted into estrogen. You're going to look at the other factors within the body. So that's at stephencabral.com/labs. Stress, mood, and metabolism is the name of the test. If you were just to do one, of course, the big five is always better, but if you just do one, that would be it. Psychological is important. Like if there's a stress-based issue, if it's a performance-based issue, that's important to look at that. And then also, did he start to go on any medications, within the last 6 months or so? Because there are certain medications that can hurt erections. And one of those is hair loss medication called finasteride or Propecia. And that could be an issue as well. It's not the only one, but that's at least something worth exploring. Or maybe even blood thinners. That could be an issue as well. So let's look at what else may have happened and hopefully we can get to the root cause from there. All right, Irma is up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. Thank you for all you do to help us improve our health. Thanks, Irma. Appreciate that. Happy to help. We just moved out of our home due to mold. We will have it cleaned up and are ordering your mold urine test. My question is, do you think it's safe to move back into the house after mold remediation? We do own our home, but we are worried it may not be completely removed or that it may return. We've experienced some of the symptoms you mentioned before regarding mold exposure. Also, what do you suggest in the meantime to cleanse or detox our bodies of this mold? One of the mold found is the Strachbois, and from what we hear, it's very toxic. Our bedroom had a high level. Thank you for your help. Okay, so just to let you know, we just had mold in the home that we moved into 6 months ago. What did we do? We had it remediated in our daughter's bathroom, where it turns out there was a leak. So what do we have to do? We had to repair the leak where the water was getting in on the roof. We had to rip out all of the insulation, all of the sheetrock, and then you go another 6 feet, okay? And then you remediate that. So girls moved out of the bedroom, all that stuff. We kind of tarped it off. They do this obviously professionally, right? And what we do is we test the outside air and we test the inside air. You do that before and after. A professional mold remediation company will do this. I had to gut half of my garage before I turned it into my home gym. Because again, there was a previous leak from the owner, and what do? They just painted over it. I think that's a deplorable thing to do. I really do. It is, we'll put it this way. It's not being a good steward here in this world that we live in for our neighbors, right? For our fellow human beings. Maybe they didn't know. I give them the benefit of the doubt. So we had to rip everything out. And then we tested, and it's mold-free. So you can move back in. You really can. And so what do I do? Well, I have the Big Ear Doctor. You can find that at stevencabral.com/shop. That's the ear filter I use, the 5000. And then if you have high levels of mold or mycotoxins from the lab test, the mold toxicity test, you can run the mold toxicity protocol, which I actually have here on my desk because these are brand new kits, meaning it's not a brand new protocol, but a brand new beautiful packaging. And it's called the mold detox protocol. And you can find that at stevencabral.com/shop. And that is exactly what we do for children and adults. Children just use a lower level dosage. All right. So hopefully that's helpful. All right. Erin is up next. Breakfast! ! I know you've mentioned the daily nutritional shake with some fruit is a great way to start your day. And I've tried this for a while, but it doesn't seem to stay with me or give me the energy I need until lunch versus if I have something sprouted, like sprouted toast, a couple eggs, and some local pastured bacon. Any thoughts on this? Should I just stick with the shakes and power through this, or is the toast, bacon, eggs okay? So please go back to my podcast because I can't give a whole show just on eggs, bacon, and toast. I can't recommend that for breakfast. Once a week, you want to do that for a brunch? I do the same thing. I don't think it's an issue. Check out my podcast on all that. I just don't think it's a wise decision for a lifetime. Now, it doesn't have to be the shakes though. I just tell you this is what the majority of people in our practice do, 90+%. They get great results with it. What do? I agree. I can't just do the shake. So what do? Oatmeal first. I have oatmeal, which is loaded with fiber, slow digesting carbohydrates, and then I have my shake with it and after. So you might do the same. You might have some of your sprouted toast if you want with that. But again, I think you have to be careful with that because then, do you want that much gluten or are you doing a gluten-free? It's and it's more processed than an oatmeal. So just think about that. That's what I do. And then also, you might need a little bit more fat with your shake. Have you thought about adding in some macadamia nuts? Have you thought about adding in a little bit more protein? So again, I have a whole podcast that says what happens if you're hungry within an hour and a half after eating. You need more protein and you need more fiber at that meal typically. And for you might need a little extra fat. You have eggs and bacon. Maybe that's, obviously it's slower digesting and that might be better for you. The other thing is I drink my shake over an hour. So I eat my oatmeal, I sip it, and then I sip it, I basically drink it over an hour and it's more time-released energy. And then I have my breakfast around 8. I have my lunch around 12. And then I have my dinner around 5:30 at night. So everybody will find what works for them, right? And so you'll find what works for you, no doubt about it. All right, let's get one more question in today. It's from Joanna. Joanna says, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. Thank you for your continuation of educating and spreading so much knowledge to others." Thank you, Joanna. Appreciate that. I'm a fellow IHP level 2. I wondered if you could share with me if you know the benefits of the feet up stool used in yoga, where you place your head in the feet up stool and your legs are elevated so you can do various movements with your legs. Thank you so much, Joanna. Yeah, happy to help with this. So basically what the, we'll call it feet up stool, does is enable you to stabilize your upper body so that you can get your legs up in the air without having to worry about all the wobbliness or having to perfect a headstand. And so what it does is a reverse blood flow. So typically, every day of our life, every second of our life, the blood has to flow down to our feet but it also has to move back up to the heart, right? And so how it does that is, I'm not going to get into the entire vascular system, but it moves from the calves and the gastrocs, especially that's why it's great to walk, pump the fluid and the blood back up, right? So the lymphatic fluid has to go back up through the lymph nodes. It has to go back up here through the left side, this greater trochanter up here, and then the same with the blood, right? The blood's more of a automatic pump where it does help though if you walk, where the lymph is more of a manual pump. So if you put your feet above your heart, well, you can get the benefits of more reverse blood flow. Like it's easier, right, to flow down with gravity. What I will say is this, we just have to be careful that if you're in that position for too long, there is a buildup in arterial pressure and pressure actually in the capillaries in our eyes. So if you feel like it's building up in your head and your eyes, take a deep breath, make sure you're breathing. But then if that's not working, come down. The other thing is that we have to be careful if you have high blood pressure, this could be an issue, right? So it is based on obviously the individual. An easy way, so again, you can do this. There's no doubt about it. And I have no issue with that. And I think it can be beneficial. All right. Another one for almost every human that they'd be able to do is I just call it legs up on the wall. It actually has a yoga pose name. It's escaping my mind right now. It's great for the adrenals, nourishing the adrenals and the kidneys. Basically, you just move your glutes, your hips towards the wall, lying on the ground, and you put your feet up on the wall. That's it. And this is one of the best things that you can do at the end of the day. It's reverse blood flow from the feet down to the hips. You relax, you can put your hands over your heart, and you're basically, the blood's flowing to the kidneys, the adrenals, it's flowing your entire body. But in yoga, that's what it's saying. It's nourishing the adrenals and helping to, if you breathe with it, induce the parasympathetic nervous system. So that's a great way that pretty much everybody can do as well. Again, on the show, I can't provide any medical advice, medical treatment plans, medical cures, medical diagnosis, but you already know that. Hopefully you enjoyed today's show. I'll be back tomorrow answering more of our community's questions. Take care, everybody. Have an amazing rest of the weekend. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stevencabral.com/podcasts. That will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.